Hey all, welcome to Parker's Reefs. On today's episode, we're going to get a really cool sit down and chat with Julian and Ehsan from Triton Reef Bioscience, a video that I'm really looking forward to bring to you guys. All right, so as touched on, we're going to chat to the guys from Triton Reef Bioscience today. Now, way back in March at Underwater Pet Expo, we chatted about their new lab that's coming to Cairns in Australia and said that it'd be really cool if I could fly up there and check out the facility, do a video. Well, since March, or since the end of Feb, start of March, quite a lot of things has happened in the world, and unfortunately I'm not able to get on a plane and get up to Cairns to check out the facility, but thankfully, the Triton Reef Bioscience Lab has been built and it is operational now in Cairns. So we're going to take the opportunity to jump on Zoom and have a chat to Ehsan and Julian from Triton Reef Bioscience, get all the latest and greatest about this absolutely cutting edge reef aquarium technology and some of their processes and systems and the research and stuff they're doing. We're going to check it all out. Now, bear with me, this video will go for a little while, but there's so much information to cover, and I feel like we're still only scratching the surface. So if you'd like to see more information from Ehsan and Julian at Triton, be sure to let us know, because this is something that I can do again. We can jump on a Zoom call, we can ask your questions to Triton directly, and you can get some absolute inside knowledge as to some of the latest and greatest sciences and theories and methods and you name it. We can get better coloration, better growth, better survival rates out of your reef using science. So that's probably enough from me. Let's jump onto the computer, get in touch with the guys, we'll give them a bell, and I'll take you along for the ride.
Let's rip into it. All right, we'll start off. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. I'm super stoked to be doing this this chat and this video with you guys. I know my viewers are going to be super keen to learn a little bit more about Triton ICP and just see where things are at now and where they're headed in the future. And we've got two of the main men from Triton on screen with us right now, are going to be able to answer all of our questions. So first off, do you want to start off just by telling us a bit about yourselves and what your part is in the beast that is Triton?
Yeah, there's only one really important name here, right? I don't want to put you down, mate, but I mean,
yeah, we're going to flip a coin to see which one that is.
you guess, Sam. Okay, I'll start because I'm the least important. No, we'll end on a high. My background, Sam, as you may know, is I worked for a company that some people have heard of called Cairns Marine for 20 years, over 20 years. I'm a marine parasitologist. I studied at the University of Queensland and got my degree there. And I worked in that capacity at Cairns Marine over the years, eventually into a position where I was export sales manager, apart from other things. And yeah, I met Ehsan at a conference overseas and in Denver, Colorado at MATNA. I was presenting a talk and he was presenting a talk, and we started this kind of friendship there. And yeah, my job now, working for Triton, is as the head of the science division in Australia. So I use collaboration with partnerships with some of the companies. I've built relationships with collection companies, not just Cairns Marine where I used to work, but I also know almost all the other collecting companies. So yeah, across those, I suppose, bringing some of those contacts into how we can use, or Triton can use them to assist us with our research, and we feel there's a lot of scope for that. We'll talk a bit more about that later.
Okay, great, thank you.
And he's head of music too.
I play the music.
So, yeah,
it's an important part.
Very important.
I got a Spotify account. So.
Anyway, that's good. Yeah, and I'm Ehsan and I'm the owner of Triton, actually, and I'm the founder of Triton. And yeah, I'm actually doing nearly everything, but mostly right now I'm the head of development for products and analysis and stuff like that. This was what I started with when I was nearly alone with my mom and my dad. But yeah, so it's just kind of yeah, no self-explanatory, I think, what I'm doing. But I'm now in Cairns too because of the lifestyle. You know?
Sure.
Because of stuff that we're definitely
these innovations of Triton is actually coming from my side and my team. Yeah, that's kind of my main thing doing it. There are other people doing advertising, other people doing support, other people doing, but the main part is kept actually by me.
Yeah,
And all the
fantastic.
business stuff. So I think that's pretty much the description, isn't it?
Covers it all. A one-man band that's then brought some other people in to follow along with your vision and grown to the animal that it is today, which is incredible. Now, I guess I probably should go back maybe a couple of steps, just because some people watching this video may not be as hardcore of a reefer as I am, and some others out there may be, but I guess I should ask the question, what is ICP? What is a Triton ICP? What does that mean? What's this machinery that you're sitting in front of there, and what does it mean for the everyday reefer?
Yeah, so I'll go with that. Yeah, so ICP is actually just a part of it. This machine is called ICP OES.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a spectrometer. So it's spectrometer. Yeah. So it's an inductive coupled plasma, which is the ICP optical emission spectrometer, right? So that's what this machine is, and it's made for measuring atoms. That's what it's made for, and what people buy it for. And you can buy it. Everybody can buy one. The thing is that it cannot do anything like just alone. You can't just buy it and measure whatever you want.
For sure.
You need to adapt it. It's a tool, so you need to adapt it to whatever you want it to do, right? And that's called the method of testing. So you create your own part that goes with the machine and does what you want, right? And that method needs to fit your purpose, what you do. So a Triton ICP, which we just called it ICP because it just describes what machine we use.
Yes.
We use that for measuring seawater in aquariums and for the purpose of manipulating water in aquariums, right? To make it better or worse, who knows, But this is what we created it in the first place for. And the reason for that was that in the times where we kind of, 12 years ago we did this, right? 12 years ago we created the first measurement for aquariums, which was an HPLC. It was another machine back then. And then I think 8 years ago we started ICP testing. And we started this because ICP is able to measure a broad band of atoms in seawater, which makes a lot more visible to the aquarius than it was being able to see before. So when you look at before ICP times, before Triton times, people measured 6% of the water. We dropped the testing.
Yeah.
Right? So
and we thought we were good doing that as well.
Exactly. And we were good. I was reef keeper back then too. I started reef keeping with 12 years.
When you're 12-year-old.
10 years old, yeah. So that's that's not too long ago. I'm 25 now. So yeah, I started my business 25. So I started trying when I was 25 years old. But when I was 12 years old, there were people that were successful. There were no aquapros. You couldn't buy aquapros. You just started, and their names were all I went into the shop and all the names were strawberry coral, crazy ass, all of them. Anyway, so this was the beginning of that stuff. And then people started to look at trace elements, to look at amino acids, to look up, and me having the background, my father is a chemist, my mom is a pharmacist, so even with 12 years, I kind of realized that something is maybe wrong, putting all this stuff in without knowing what is it's in there or what you're doing. And it always kind of bothered me, I'll run my tanks, but it was still, kind of, the whole family was like, oh, what are you doing there? And I was like, I don't know. It was really bad. It was really bad for a scientific family, so it hurts us.
Surely if you pour more in, it's going to be better.
Yeah, correct. And there's all the science on the bottom.
That's what everyone does.
Yeah. And it was written on there, if you see positive effect, just double the amount. And it was like, No. So this is the reality of what reef keeping was before Triton, right? So it was nothing bad. I don't say that because I've grown up with it, right? So it's
Of course, yeah.
all what's happened now is just possible because some people started to look at trace elements, which is okay, you know.
Yeah.
You can't have everything the right way.
No, it continually evolves. It's the draw to the hobby.
Exactly, and that was what kind of made us to go the way. We saw that in terms of technology, look at light, there was, you know, T8, and then, you know, metal halide, then NT5. So there was the evolution there, and then,
Yes.
and also in pumps there was an evolution. And I remember my first skimmer was a Tunze skimmer, the first skimmer with a pump that drags air in, like, you know, the little thing. So it was there was evolution, but in chemistry, like, it was magic, you know. So people, it was magic. So my dad said it. My dad said, "What is this, magic?" Like, I don't know. It just was a bottle with like stuff on it. And it says it makes your clothes blue.
The true error of snake oil, where it would actually work for some people, which is what gave it just enough hint of belief that it could work for you, regardless of where your levels were.
To be honest, look, it's just too hard to make that work for everybody. So it's just not possible to make it work, but it just works for a little percentage of people. And there was not, I can't say it's a snake oil because somebody believed in it, because it is, and it worked for him. So it's not a snake oil. He really believes that this works for all the people, but it's hard because all of them do different things. So knowing that, we said, okay, you know, we want to change in that industry. We want people to be able to have transparency, to see what they're adding. So there is a need for people knowing what's in the bottle, right? They all did the right thing on one hand and the wrong thing on the other. So if you were accurate back then, you always, if I ask people, say, hey, do you measure your calcium? Yes, sure I do. I measure and replace. Do you measure your alkalinity? Yes, sure I do. I measure and replace. And do you measure your vanadium? You know, like,
crickets.
So you know, this goes hand in hand, and that's also a point of success because people understand it right away. So measuring and replacing is the better way of just putting it and hoping. And water changing, that was one point of things that went really crazy because we never did water change on our show tank and stuff. And then people said, oh no, this kind of polarized a lot, you know, because there were people that love water change. And it was all a really kind of nice and energetic build up, to be honest, with us. But yeah, the main thing was to be able to help people with a proper product.
Replicate too.
Yes.
Replicate success.
Exactly. So when people came to my house in the past, and I did the same thing like everybody. I cut up my clothes and you know, sold it. You know, people came to me with, you know, cheapers and bought them and stuff. So the first thing they always said was, how do you do this? You know, they looking awesome, I can grow like shit. And there was always the key point. Like, it's always the same thing. Every aquarist know a guy, either in the internet or personally, and he loves that tank.
Yes.
And what he will ask him first thing is, what do you do? And he will say, this, and then he start to replicate that because he thinks that's the way I want to have my tank to look like this. Right? And the problem with that is they always do something wrong. Like, it's always an error in there because it's too complicated. Right?
There's too many elements. Not just elements. Too many variables.
Yes.
Yeah, that it's near, like, you can't recreate a dynamic environment to the T. You can attempt to, and you can probably get 80% of the way there, but you can't.
I think the most important thing that people focus on is they would say, oh, there's so many variables with the corals and the animals you keep, but there's actually too many variables in the filtration and the way that people filter the water. That's the big.
A lot of things. So even if you copy it, and there is a bit of a talent. Like, I had really nice friends without an ICP. This is what a lot of people asking. Like, he said, I know your tank, but you hadn't had an ICP. It was awesome. So you know, you don't need an ICP. So he said, no, this is not the case. So when you do a product, you can't put your talent in there and your experience and sell it. It's impossible. So what we try to do is creating a product that replicates, that people don't need talent and and experience,
High level
and
skills,
still get the result that we get, right? A really high level aquarium without the knowledge. And it's 100% possible. So you learn by doing, but you're successful. And that was the key thing of the Triton method in all the products we create. And that was the main thing why we have been successful. So all this ICP is gone hand in hand with transparency, looking at the water, knowing what to do, we needed to do a lot of research to understand what vanadium is doing. Or chromium, or nobody else before us ever tested it. Right? So this stuff not written in books. This stuff nobody has done real research on that, because there is no value to somebody outside of this industry doing it. Right? So all these things comes with this ICP, and that was the initial thing actually to do. Yeah.
So, in short, the ICP OES machine behind you there is a highly specific and a machine that's been developed to measure elements within seawater specifically, because I know ICP is not something that just exists for reef aquariums, but the Triton machine has been developed and configured and run in a way that it is designed specifically for measuring elements in seawater, and measuring elements that either we're trying to measure at home on I mean, I can only imagine you guys would almost laugh at the type of readings we get from our sort of hobbyist test kits, which, in fairness to them, you pay $20 or $30 for a test kit and you do a tridation test on it and you get a result. But realistically, the amount of time that reagent's had exposure to air, or the user error, or the variance in batches, you're kind of almost licking your finger and holding it in the air compared to something like the machine you're sitting in front of now.
Yeah, well, no, I'm not looking at titration, which is
sure.
Like that. I'll always say there's more information is better. That's
fair point.
So when you have a test kit that is saying your phosphate reading is down, we do a measurement of phosphorus in the ICP, right?
Yes.
So you could learn out of these two measurements more than you would just have the one. That's the truth.
Yes.
So when you look at the end-of testing, which is unique in Triton, it's the same thing. We measure the nitrogen in your water.
Yes.
But you measure your nitrate, so you get more information out of that. The nitrate is 0. That means there's a lot of other forms of nitrogen in your tank. Sure, there is a hobby test kit, and it's not that accurate, but it's not that it's not working at all. So
of course,
you need to kind of have respect that too. Yeah, it have more.
Both have their place.
As much as possible. Otherwise, you always kind of running blind. But yes, an ICP make all that stuff kind of visible.
Yes.
So you ending up with 99% of your water. So you see a lot of errors in there, which is the main thing of an ICP, to be honest. Like you see if you're contaminating your tank with something.
Yeah, the contamination aspect's a very important one, because we don't have test kits to test the lead that's in your tank through your pipes from the water.
Exactly. It's something I recommend. It's something I recommend often to people that will message me and say, something's going on with my tank and I can't work out what's wrong. My parameters are all on point. And I'm like, well, the parameters you can test for are on point, but you don't know where your tin is. You don't know where your lead is. You don't know where your nickel is, because there's not an off-the-shelf test kit. Well, not an easily accessible off-the-shelf test kit for a lot of these elements. The only way you're going to discover that is through an ICP. And you almost are hoping or have your fingers crossed that when you get your results back that you do find something that's completely off the charts, because then you've got something you can fix.
Yes. We all like to see a smoking gun.
Yeah, exactly. It's nothing worse than when you get back your results and they're like, they're all good, but you've still got a problem. You're like, I was really hoping to find something drastically wrong there.
You need to know, like, when we started, there was a lot of things that went wrong, to be honest, in this industry. One of them was the frustration carried out with what you're explaining right now, and not knowing what, thinking everything is fine and still it goes wrong. That's a really bad thing. And we had a lot of things. I could start talking about this 2 years now, but the thing is that one of them was calcium bromide, for example. That was one of the things we detected within HPLC 12 years ago. A lot of calcium supplements have bromide in them. Calcium bromide and calcium chloride is very similar.
Sure.
So people use barling, the barling method, just mix stuff up, do it yourself, and edit. And they went well in the beginning because the bromide level was low because they added low calcium. There was not too much usage of calcium, so they kind of. But when the tank was 2 years old, everything was nice, big, and strong, and you added a lot of calcium, and all of a sudden the bromide hit a point where it killed like everything.
Sure.
And these people, without a proper testing for bromide, were not able to understand what happened. And they always blamed the last food they put in, the last amino acid, the last, because they added it, and all of a sudden everything died.
Yep.
So
Yep.
and then they never would go back and say, oh, it was the calcium that I used from the start 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Because you always would say, I'm using this 2 years, so
It's safe.
it's safe.
Yeah.
And
No, that's a valid point. I mean, I wouldn't look at that. I'd look at something that has changed in the last few months rather than, I know you guys have got kids as well, and one of our favorite books here is Who Sank the Boat? And you've got all these animals in the boat, but then, the mouse or the fly or something is the last thing that sits on there, and it's enough to sink the boat. But if that has been added in there continuously and it's within the range of acceptable or not so much acceptable, but where the corals can handle it, but it just reaches that tipping point. It's not something you've changed, but it's just been continually added. You're not going to see that any other way.
Another thing I was just going to add to that is a lot of people are sourcing products of DIY kind of in their own way through companies that are making products not fit for purpose. It's not made for an aquarium. And the companies that are selling those products don't really care if they've added or changed their supplier.
Yes.
So you might say, I've been using the same brand for the last 3 years and never had a problem. Yep. And suddenly the supplier changes. It's not the same. Yep. So that's where sometimes things can creep in, because people say to me all the time, but I haven't changed anything. It's like,
But, and the sad side is a lot of people would give up, right, after that. It's an accident like that. And then some of them would even say, no, I'm not giving up, I've started again. But then they do the exact same error again. And it gets there was a very bad thing I kind of realized back then, and there was also a key to go on the ICP way to make more visible, like more stuff than just an HPLC can do.
For sure. No, fantastic. Now, that tells us a bit about ICP and why you do it, and a little bit even about the Triton method there. Now, probably one of the main reasons for our call, or I guess the last time we saw each other was at Underwater Pet Expo, and you'd announced then that you were bringing an ICP machine to Australia, the first Triton machine. It was the first Triton machine outside of Germany? No, you have got one in America?
Yes, Los Angeles, UK, London, and then Cairns and Justin.
Holy moly, all right. So you're quite a lot. I guess I was only concerned with where my results were getting sent to. So, well, not my results, my samples were getting sent to. The rest of the world I didn't care as much for. But and at Underwater Pet Expo, or leading up to Underwater Pet Expo, the announcement came out that you guys were bringing a ICP machine to Australia, and you were going to base both of yourselves here in Australia, operating out of Cairns, with a lineup, like you mentioned before, of the cities of where Triton have other labs. Don't get me wrong, I've been to Cairns. I love it there. And I'm as proud of an Aussie as anyone. But why Cairns? What's brought you here?
We could say a lot of wrong things now, though. Okay. So, Fishing. Fishing, lifestyle.
The sun, warm.
Yeah.
Temperature.
After work, go to the beach. No. So it's a very valid question we get asked very often, because obviously we we're not a company that just put a machine anywhere.
Yeah.
We look at value for customers, and if you look at how many customers we have in America, Los Angeles is a no-brainer. UK and Germany, exactly the same thing. A lot of people live there, right? A lot of population. Australia is not having that much population. This is why a lot of people ask, and it's true. You can't really, you can't justify a machine here, especially not that machine. Like it's the main machine. It's my machine that kind of I love. It's a very sometimes
He does. He loves it.
Yeah. It's very. Yeah, anyway, it's
yeah, too much information there.
Yeah, stop.
No, you think you were right there.
Chemistry lab.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, it's not making sense from that end. We love to support our customers. We love that we can bring faster turnarounds and stuff here. But mainly we did this because, like I said before, we do a lot of research, real research. So, you know, that all people will tell you, all companies in the world will tell you they do research, right? Because it's cool and, you know, they do something and they develop things. But Triton is very much about innovation. So if you look at our 12 years,
yes,
I think every second, third year, we had a groundbreaking innovation. You know, like we started with HPLC, we brought the Triton method, which is the only method its kind in the world because it's standard, like standardized method. Then we brought ICP testing, and then we brought, you know, Core 7, which is a concentrated stuff. So we are about innovation, and we kind of don't really look at things that already exist and work. So we don't have salt, we don't have GFO because there are good enough salts and GFOs around.
Sure.
That we don't need, there's no innovation in there to make, so we just leave them, and we recommend the best ones that we think of are the best ones for use. But all this stuff is based on scientific research. We use our data. I mean, we have 35,000 people online now using the service. We have maybe more than 300,000 tests done in that 12 years. And we are kind of Facebook for aquariums. So we learn from all these aquariums with testing. And we have a Triton method, which is the framework that everybody does the same. Mm-hmm. So it's a standard. So you have all these aquariums running the same way. They have little differences. And this is what helps us to understand what vanadium is doing, how much copper is dangerous, how much lead is dangerous, things like that, right?
Sure.
So this is what comes down to our knowledge and what we kind of give you when you do a test with us. But all this is just possible if you continuously do research. So you need to be able to use your testing service for making money, which is absolutely okay.
Of course, you've got to operate as a business.
Exactly, and then you need, and that's what I always said, like, oh, I can be a scientist and get funding, which is okay because it's the way it works. You know, you go somewhere and ask for money, and they give you money, and then you do something. Or you could do the way we do it and earn your money and do the scientific research on the side to it, right? And this is what we do. We fund ourselves, right? And we get funded by people, which is not an unusual thing nowadays. People that then have a benefit of our research.
Crowdfunding.
Yeah, it's crowdfunding. So that's what we kind of did. And at one point, there was this plateau, like there was a point where we couldn't get way more information out of what we're doing. And we started getting the machines around the world because then we have faster turnarounds, which also means a bit of closer results to the reality, a bit of closer results to what's happening in the aquarium. And the next step was actually getting a machine close to the reef. And that's what we did. So that's why Cairns is close to the reef. There is a wide amount of people here working with the reef. Knowledge is here. There is a lot of experience here. Old people that know so much. Like you can't believe these people working their whole life at the reef that when you start talking to them, that mixture is explosive. Like it's really like talking for until it, you know.
Yeah. Sit down, have a beer with a coral collector. Or,
I was going to
or a few of
say,
them.
that's really unlike Cairns locals to, you know, want to have much of a yarn. They're normally pretty shy people.
Oh yeah, yeah. Especially after a schooner.
But not when they're in that lab. They all talk about drives.
They all think we're doing something else with this lab.
I can imagine.
What are you doing really? Like what is the lab really?
How are you paying for this?
Yeah, that's funny. Anyway.
No, we've got a lot of spots identified through, again, our partners, and with all up and down the East Coast. We've got plans to go and test specialized habitats. There are many diverse habitats which make up the GBR. It's an incredible system that needs a lot of work done on it. So we're here, we're right on it, and we're gonna get stuck into it.
And that's how it's putting that, taking that tool and putting it in front of the right crowd, like in front of the right people.
Yes.
That always have an idea, always thinks about things that related to corals. Because if you're in Germany, maybe in Dusseldorf, people walked in there, it's so much tank with a 1 meter clam in there, and they said, oh wow, like, is this thing alive? Yeah, it is. Oh, and then, the rocks look nice. They painted it. But no. This is, you know what I mean? It's not real. For them, the coral reef is so far away. It's just something that you see in the holidays, and here it's part of their life. So it's pretty good. You have all these people that really contribute to the data too. So we have Julian as a marine biologist and parasitologist, which is awesome. And knowing all these people here, I mean, everybody knows them here. It's crazy. It's really, sometimes I'm afraid when you know them. And then you have Vincent Chalias, for example. He's part of the company and he's a very famous coral fragger, let's say, or breeder. Yeah. Sure. So all these things that happened since we did this, since we intentionally brought the thing in the middle of the industry, here in the beginning of it, let's say, that's really powerful. That's why we're doing it. It's very, very much helping to get new understanding of what's happening on a reef or in an aquarium, and then you can use this again to create real products that help people.
And I think that's the biggest investment when Ehsan talks about, where Triton innovates and continues to innovate, is the investment in the last couple of years is to bring in industry professionals to strengthen the support team. The support team, Vincent, myself, Ehsan, we answer people's emails from all around the world. So we have worked out 6 languages, that we are actually supporting. We have a support team across 6 languages. So we find that a lot of people don't understand. They buy the test kit, they get over a decade's worth of knowledge and research to give the recommendations, and along under that same price, they get the support team access. So they get myself and Ehsan directly talking to them about their results, their water chemistry, and how to fix their aquarium. And that's the power.
And that is for an aquarium, for our customers, this is the main thing.
Yeah.
It's not getting your water test. I mean, I give you your results just like that, and you don't know what to do. Believe
that's
me,
right. Exactly.
Right? So it's just not useful. So what we always had was something going with it, at least a bit of information that can tell you what to do with these results now. And that's the main thing to try. And that's what we always need to build. And that's why we have it here. And it's nice to have one in Los Angeles. And in Los Angeles, we have one with a really good, wholesaler of corals too. So there's a massive facility right there. But it's kind of the all-day work, the crowdfunding part, let's say.
Yeah, sure.
And here, I'm the development guy, right? So this is the main thing for me.
It gives you the ability. I mean, the future there sounds pretty exciting. It's almost like a win-win scenario in that you're going to learn more for the aquarist and by seeing what's happening in the reef, but also we might learn more about what's going on the reef, and it may even lead to some sort of development or assistance in saving the reef that, I mean, Cairns almost wouldn't be Cairns. In fact, probably wouldn't be Cairns without the reef there. So much of that part of Australia is completely dependent on both the tourism and the just the industry, I guess, of living around the reef there. So as we all know, it's precariously balanced at the moment, and I'm sure that's why you're getting, I mean, you guys come with enough of a reputation as it is, but I'm sure it's another reason why you're getting the amount of support that you are, is because people know that you guys are there trying to do everything you can to help save the reef, and you've got some years of knowledge and some specialized equipment to further enhance that knowledge. It's almost crowdsourcing from a information perspective rather than a financial perspective, and you're getting the right people on board with the right location. Sounds super exciting.
Yeah, we're actually very happy. Look, I mean, you know, we can't change the climate, you know?
Yeah,
So
yeah, that's right.
If you are prepared for everything that could happen, you need to say that corals might just exist in aquariums in the coming years, sadly,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So some of them definitely will not survive. So what we do is still saving the reef, and what every aquarist is right now doing is contributing to that. So if we can keep them alive in a habitat that is artificially done, that's maybe a fail-safe at least, you know. So
Absolutely.
sure, we need to fix the other stuff because it will bring a lot of other problems too. But if we can't, we still have the fail-safe.
And Ehsan has written papers and worked extremely closely with the Horniman Museum in the UK. And their work, if anyone looks it up, they'll see the work they've done on captive coral spawning and propagation. And that's something that we continue to, like Triton and Ehsan supports with funding and make sure that we're kind of at the coalface of that side of things as well. So that's something, again, the partnerships we're looking at the moment and speaking with the people is possibly for coral restoration projects on the Great Barrier Reef as well.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, I feel like I was going to say that we're on the cusp. I feel that we're probably almost just beyond the cusp now. I feel like that we're already starting to see some of those incredible developments that probably would have been unfathomable maybe 10 years ago, that we could have some acropora spawning in captivity, and not only spawning, but then even being able to raise them and potentially condition them for a replacement into the reef. It's something that's, whilst isn't happening in bulk just yet, you can definitely see that it is possible. I feel like we're right there now, and that's
you already like my next paper.
Oh, I'm sure I will. It's
all explainable. If you go back in time, that what you talked about right now, what we can reach now, is absolutely explainable by how much we can control the water quality.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So that was the goal in the beginning, and there are papers out there stating exactly that. Right?
Yes.
So the paper saying, if we could test it regularly, then we maybe could get a coral spawning in the network. And that's like 15 years ago, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's described in exactly the way I tried it. It's really funny, but wait for the paper.
I will wait for the paper, absolutely. And I also liked what you said about, I'm not sure if you guys know, I work for a university down south here, and I'm an information analyst. So when you mentioned before about you could give the data from your tests, and you could give that to the customer, and it's probably not going to give them a lot, but giving them the information and telling them what to do next, it is the collecting of the data is one thing, but turning that data into information is something that's just, it's priceless, particularly if you've got industry experts such as yourselves there to analyze the data and to give that insight, to give the next steps. And I think that's the part that, particularly when I've seen people share their ICP results before, and they basically just put a picture of it up on Facebook and go,
yes,
does this look good? And it's like, that other tab, but just up there where it's, it's got information. Click on that. Don't take my word for it. Have a look and see what the experts say you should do next.
Yeah, it's a bit of it's really, you would understand it. It's also turning that data into valuable information was really hard. And that's because everybody run a different tank.
Yes.
And that's also one reason you need to understand everything Triton does is a bit of a two-faced thing. Like it's always having a very visible, easy to understand face. Oh yeah, they're testing my sample, I'll give them money, But then they're doing something else too, and we do something else too in the back end. And what we did with the Triton method, binding people to this, where they think we actually shouldn't do that because we will sell more if we don't bind them to a algae refugium and all this data rule set.
Sure.
But that rule set ensures that all of them run the same system, which then ensures that our data is valuable for being kind of evaluated. So it will not work without this. So you can do 300,000 tests on an ICP machine. If all your aquariums are different, you will never understand what vanadium is doing. Never. So if you have 100 aquariums all the same, and even if 10% of them fail because they're kind of not saying really what they did and mess it up.
Sure.
Still you have the 90. Still the amount is showing you the reality. And that's kind of what an information analyst would understand for sure. It's something that people don't know when they run a Triton method. Some of them will, but they just run it because they're successful, which is also good, but
sure.
It's two-faced. If you look into it a bit more, sometimes it's something really interesting that we do kind of behind the scenes.
That's fantastic. Now, we mentioned before that it's not the reason that you've come to Australia with an ICP machine to turn around test results for Australian reefers quicker. However, it's a real handy little side effect. And I saw just the other day, Yoshi posted that he sent in his test result, his test sample, and got results 3 days later, which is something that is unheard of in Australia, particularly for a ICP of the quality of Triton. Surely that's not sustainable. You guys aren't going to be trying to produce turnaround times of 3 days in the future. What's the sort of turnaround time we realistically can expect in the future weeks or months or years?
No, we believe in under promising and over delivering. That's our motto.
Fair enough.
We say to people within 3 days of arrival in Cairns, but we expect to be quicker than that.
Yeah.
We have a very strict quality control protocol, which we need to not only test the sample, but then Ehsan analyze the results, give it against the controls that we have within the batch, and we calibrate the machine every time we run it. So there's time involved, and if we're not happy with that first sample, that means we have to discard that sample, do another test, analyze it again, pass it for quality control, and upload. So again, worst case scenario, we say 3 days after arrival, just to allow us. Although speed is of the essence and the most important thing, we believe quality of results.
Absolutely.
We've got to make sure.
No use getting the data quickly if it's if it's rubbish data, that's for sure.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so look, UK very much like Australia, and also looking at not having that amount of samples that we can't expect to have UK amount of samples or Germany.
Of course, we just don't have the population.
Exactly. So I don't really think that it's taking long. We have a protocol that always works all around the world the same thing. So if you look at America, they get the test results in 3 days. If you look at UK, 2 days to 3 days. So it's always kind of the same. And I'm doing the quality control on all of them. From here.
Yeah.
So it's and they are in different time zones. And so it's to be expected to be fast, to be honest. So, but like Julian says, we don't want to over promise, and it's also the postal service too.
Of course, which in Australia at the moment is quite stretched, particularly down where I am. We're not allowed to leave our house. The postal service is heavily under the pump at the moment. So I guess we've got to allow a little bit of time for the samples to get to you. You can't do anything if they're not with you.
exactly. So when they arrive here, you can do a lot about it. So some people have problems, they ship them express. When you see an express test that's at protocol 2, we right away test it. So, we know there is something happening, somebody wants them to pass.
Sure.
So things like that. I would say we'll just wait and see what happens because we just started. So.
Talk's cheap.
Yeah, fair call. Now, for those who don't know, how does the everyday aquarist, whether they be in Australia or in any other country, how do they go about taking advantage of these services? They head on down to their local fish shop. They can buy a test kit there. It's got a couple of test tubes in there and some labels. You grab some sample. You follow the instructions because you've got to flush the test vials out a few times. Get the sample in there, put the label on, register it on your website, and then send it into you guys. And then from there, you just get an email. I'm pretty sure from memory, you get an email once you've received the sample, and you get an email once your results are then available on the dashboard. Is that correct?
Perfect, mate.
Exactly.
Oh, jeez. And then the other thing I do know, because I think I'm probably up to maybe about 10 tests with you guys now, that you also you have the ability on your site to it obviously keeps the history of your results, and you can also group them by aquariums as well. So I've got a fair few tests with my main display, which is now been shut down, but I've also got a couple of tests on some other aquariums there, and it keeps the history of those, so you can then track if you are starting to see things like was it I've forgotten the element that you said was in calcium. It was often in calcium supplements. Bromine. So you could see over time your bromine starting to slowly creep up and start to cause some issues there, which is really handy, because I know a lot of people keep spreadsheets and do things themselves, but if you've got it on the cloud and a platform, you can always go and check it out and see what the advice was at that time. See if you actually followed it.
Yeah, you would learn a lot of things at Triton, mate. You know, we have a very big. We actually invested in a very big IT department, let's say, and we're working on a lot of other things IT based, right?
Sure.
To make that data for the aquarists more usable. We already have a visual chart. Have you seen that where you kind of graph?
I have, yeah. That's where we've got the like the color chart. Is that right?
Yes, correct.
Yes.
So we frozen that part for a while, but the IT guys we have a lot more now, so we have a lot of kind of capacity there now, and they start working on that, and we're looking at the next month to, update our system.
Okay.
Which is a
Big upgrade.
Yeah.
IT upgrades. It's right in my hitting zone.
So
You're gonna love it.
Yeah, so we're very careful because it's a massive upgrade. But so we're looking at the next month.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, cool. I look forward to that, because I mean, typically what I do when I get my Triton results is in that first few seconds I open up the email, grab the PDF or jump onto the website, and I just scan down looking to make sure that line's in the green and everything. Then normally I take a deep breath and I come back in about half an hour's time and I start having a bit of a deep dive into the numbers to make sure that even though it says it's green, is it really where I want it? And that element that I increased dosage from, I don't know, whether it be 5 mil a day to 7 mil a day, did it actually increase that percentage or not? And is it being consumed, or have I overshot it? But that color chart was something that as soon as you get that email, I jump in and just look at that line, make sure it's all there, and if it is or if it's not, then I go further. But it is good to have that the more rich data there, rather than just, I mean, you obviously no one just wants a color chart to say whether it's okay or not. You want to have those actual figures there so you can deep dive in and make sure that things are tracking where you want them to.
Yeah, it depends. Some people just look at the green and so we in the past, when we first created that stuff, was just a red, yellow, green type thing.
Yes.
And it not worked because people were like just on the red and they turned red.
Yeah. Yes.
So then we came up with the bar, right?
Yes.
It's like,
how red is red?
Yeah. So how red are you?
Yep.
So and that helps. I think that's something that people really like. And some just leave it there, which helps them already. And some just go on like you might. And it's also about the level of, how you do your repeat. I mean, if I have a tank And Linda, my wife, don't let me choose corals because she says they're all looking like nothing.
You're not
like
alone.
a rock.
You're not alone, right?
Yeah, and I said, look at this coral, and she's like, yeah, it's just brown. And, you know, because I'm like, yeah, I had all these other corals that are super colored and they're kind of, you know, it's a stage where you're at.
I think what a thing we like to say is Triton is for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Whatever level.
You can take it as far as you want to take it. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. But it always helps if you have something red. So, you know, that's the point. Like, it's always, even if you do it once a year test and you have a red thing in there, so you get better. If you get
Gives you something to work on and something to improve. And the best thing is if you've got something that is in the red, chances are if you can address that, you're going to visually see some improvements. Whereas if you've got everything sort of mostly in the zone and you make a slight change, if you're looking at the tank every day, you might not notice the change, where you might have a friend pop over that hasn't been over for a month and they go, wow, your tank's looking heaps better. But if you've got something that's off the charts and you can address it, you're probably going to see a drastic difference in the space of days or weeks.
That's what I mean. It's funny when you and me talking, or we three talking now, and we talk about benefits for a tank because we don't even think about killing an animal, right? Just be aware of that. But most of the people are not successful in this hobby, right? They have dead animals, and what they have, and it's still the same if you don't have ICPs. You try to do everything right. You really hard work, and I truly believe nobody just put a coral in the tank and goes away for 2 weeks and don't give it. You know, it's just not happening. So, but what you had before is just you put it in and you hope you do everything right.
Yes.
And you can see that either if your coral is dead or not.
Yes.
That's not enough. You know, that's not the measurement. The measurement is not the coral. So ICP is exactly in between that, man. It just keeps you see, oh, my copper is creeping up, and my copper is at 10. It's not deadly yet. It reaches 20, it get deadly. You see a yellow zone, and you know you need to do something. And the computer will tell you, and it's before your coral is dead. Before your famous 1 meter aquapra dies. You know?
Absolutely.
That's
and I mean, that can then spur on a chain of events too. If you lose something like a 1 meter aquapora and that dies, that's then going to affect other corals, and you just have a total wipeout. So I mean, even if your tank isn't experiencing any problems, it's really good insurance to get something like an ICP test done by Triton, and just give yourself a baseline of, so you know where your parameters were when things were good, or to see things like you just mentioned there, where you do have, because the council's changed the piping or something, and your RO water's now got more copper in it than it used to, and whilst it's not going to kill things overnight, if you don't address it in the next 6 months or 12 months, it's going to continually creep up, and then you will have one of those things where you wake up you come out to your tank overnight and it's wiped out for apparently no reason, even though if you'd taken the opportunity of the services available to us, you possibly would have seen that coming in advance.
And I think Triton testing and ICP testing is a peace of mind. It just gives you a peace of mind.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I mean, we're not talking sheep stations here. I know in Australia the kits are about $60 retail, 60, 65, something like that. Yep. So I mean, it's not.
How many pieces of coral is that?
When you're talking reef keeping, it's really not a lot of money to get the amount of information and the amount of data and the amount of information you get from a kit like that. And it's something that I'd recommend every reef keeper do at a minimum once a year. Realistically, probably once a quarter is going to give you a better idea of your trends. If you're talking a couple $100 a year as to give you a really solid baseline of information, it seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah, I think that's a standard kind of our standard recommendation too. Like every 3 months, pretty good for any size of aquarium. There are people like David Saxby testing with us every week. Because he's having this awesome tank with a submarine.
His reputation.
And it's 6,000 liters. So it's, you know what, when you compare the amount he pays for the amount of kind of security he gets, it's for sure no brainer to do it every week. I mean, You know, I would do it on my tank, on my former tank. I would have done it every week if I even would be paid, right? So that's the reality. But we have 500-liter aquarium.
Yes.
Then, you know, compare the price to the value, and you know, it's for sure that people maybe 500-liter aquarium and have a 2,000 euro fish in there, whatever. They will do it too. But it's really depending. It's 3 months period is quite good. Yeah.
It's the same sort of concept applies when people are choosing, say, a return pump for their aquarium. They, you know, you can look at a $30 return pump, or you can look at a $3,000 return pump. And sure, for some people, the $30 return pump is going to work fine because they've got, I don't know, a bit of leather that someone gave to them for free. And if the return pump fails and they don't notice for 2 days and the leather dies, one, it's not very responsible, but you know, they're not going to lose. They're not going to spend $3,000 on a return pump to keep it alive. Whereas if you've got, you know, $20,000 worth of fish and say $50,000 worth of coral, are you really going to try and save a couple of $100 on a return pump? You might not buy the $3,000 one, but you're not going to buy the $30 one. Surely you're going to buy something that has got a bit of a track record under it, and it's risk mitigation. And ICP is one of those things that every single, doesn't, regardless of the size of your tank, and regardless of the inhabitants, you could, as you say, change the frequency of your testing, but it's accessible to everyone, so why not? It's accessible, it's affordable. I can't see why anyone would not ICP test their tanks.
Yeah, I actually, a lot of people. So
Yeah.
A lot of people still fight it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're happy to know.
Good luck.
Yeah. Let's say it's around the world anyway. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
Since I started, I mean, that company building that machine, I think they have a picture of me somewhere with a lot of parts around it. They love me because I mean, not only I bought 4 of them, but you know, we caused like a sales, I think, of 3.6 million or something for them into absolute not buying industry. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
So it's just that idea. It was a good idea. We're very proud of that, and it was a good decision to bring this to the industry, and it works for a lot of people. That's the proof. You know, I mean, nobody would invest that amount of money if it won't work.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, I probably should start to wrap things up because I know you've only just finished getting this lab built, and you didn't build it to sit there in front of the computer and talk to me all day. But I do really appreciate the time you've taken out to have this discussion. I know the Parker's Reefs viewers will enjoy it very much. And if anyone does have any questions or anything they want to know more, if they come through me, I'll be sure to forward them through to you. But if not, where should they go if they wanted to talk to you further about the Triton method, or about ICP testing, or about some of the future developments you guys have got coming up?
I think the best place would be to our support team, which is hello@triton.de. So that's again manned every day, and weekdays, sometimes on weekends. But yeah, we do happy to talk to people and assist with success.
I'll be sure to put a link to that in the description there. So if anyone does have any follow-up questions, or but of course they can always head into their local fish shop and ask for a Triton test kit there, or even the Triton method supplements and products there. And if their local fish shop doesn't have it, they should ask their local fish shop to get in touch with you guys.
Yes, definitely. I'm available to talk to anyone there. But also we have the YouTube. We have a channel on YouTube.
Yeah, great.
We
yes.
have a Triton support page on Facebook. Yes. So
great.
There's a lot of worldwide successful users on there that help each other. A real community feel. So they really they answer questions before I even have a chance to a lot of times. So it's it's really, really good sharing of information. And obviously our webpage, www.triton.de. So.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So you can use in the moment we're kind of everywhere. You can use our Triton fan page on Facebook. Whatever. Yeah. It's all shared over all the media that we have. So whatever we find, whatever we do, you know, if you're interested in the chemical part, or how we kind of test the water here, or what results we get out, what new products we get out, you just go there and find, you know, even if you don't want to write an email, you just follow us there. It's fine. Yeah.
Perfect. Too easy, guys. Thank you so much.
No worries, mate. I hope Victoria gets along soon.
Yeah,
Get you up here.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait for these restrictions to ease. I've got this brand new display tank I'm trying to set up, and
I know.
the brakes have just been put on everything because I can't get cabinets installed. The sump's getting held up in transport. I can't get hold of the rock. I can't get this. So it's most people are like, oh, you're stuck at home. You'd be able to spend heaps of time on your tank, and I'm like, yeah, thanks. Heaps of time looking at a glass box. Thank you. And then of course we've got the YouTube channel, YouTube channel where people are crying out for updates on the tank, and I'm like, it's got a little bit of dust in it this week. That's about it. But I'll give it a wipe out.
Send the dust over, mate. I'll measure it for you. For free. I'll measure it for free.
So yeah, hopefully, I mean, I'm in regional Victoria, and we haven't had a case here for days. So we're still locked down, but apparently there is talk of these restrictions easing for us soon, which would be fantastic. And then can really get this tank happening, and we can check out the Triton method, of course.
Yes, mate. No worries.
Awesome. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, we'll be here in 3 years too, mate. So it's fine. Like, you don't worry. At one point, we'll come out lockdown. You'll come out here.
We'll get there eventually. All right. Thank you very much, guys. I really appreciate it. I'll talk to you again soon.
Cheers. Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, guys. See ya. Bye.
All right, guys, there you have it. Thank you very much for joining. If you've made it this far, you're obviously a hardcore reefer, because I did mention this video was going to go for a fair while. Kudos to you for sitting it out that far. If you'd like to see more videos with Triton, please let me know, because this one was actually relatively easy to do, and I'm sure that we really have only just touched the surface of all of the things we can hassle Julian and Ehsan over at Triton Labs with. So if you've got any more questions, anything else you'd like covered, let me know. We can set up another video, or of course, reach out to them directly. As you saw in the video, the guys are super, super friendly and are absolutely passionate about reef keeping, just as much as you and I are. So they want to see your reef tank flourish just as much as you do. That's probably all I got time for. I know it's been a long video, so thank you very much for watching. Till next time, guys, stay safe, keep reefing. Bye.